Merhaba, hoş geldiniz. Bienvenidos, muy buenas tardes. Welcome everybody to Miami Connection 2022. Today we have a special webinar prepared for you guys. We have a special guest, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Miami as we've been talking all this time. But before that, before I share the floor with all my guests, I want to introduce to you and talk a little bit about Miami Connection, which is the host of this webinar. First of all, I want to congratulate you for joining this space, taking the time to join this space, a space where we're going to learn and we're going to connect. And that's exactly the main mission of Miami Connections. It's a space that we created, International Realty Group, our organization has created, and with the main goal just to connect and to learn. So we're going to learn a little bit more about Miami, which is the fastest real estate market in the nation. And all we want you is to connect through this webinar. So I would like to give the space, and right now we're going to start with Diana Quinceno. Diana, please, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Thank you, Joanna, for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with you, to work amongst friends. Well, I am Vice President of Property Markets Group Residential. We develop in the state of Florida. We are a nationwide development firm, and I handle all sales of Waldorf Astoria and the Elsa Hotel and Residence. So I get to oversee the spectacular sales and the spectacular momentum that Miami has been seeing for the past 2 to 3 years that we've been seeing since pandemic happened. So it's very exciting news for Miami this year.
Thank you, Diana. Yes, it has been a lot going on within the last 2 years. Ricardo, welcome to Miami Connection. Can you please
Thank you, Joanna.
introduce yourself?
It's a pleasure just to be here. As you know, I'm a director of Entra Group, which is an investment legal consulting firm that has offices around the world, mainly Latin America, and Miami has the capital of the world. So we are very happy to be here and just to help any person who wants to do an investment, a real estate investment, how just do it in the right way and with set up the legal structure and international tax structure that is needed. So it's why my partner, Luis Guillermo, is here with us, which is an expert in this subject matter. Thank you again, and I'm pleased just to answer any question during the session.
Thank you, Ricardo. And I know you already introduced Luis Guillermo, but Luis Guillermo, would you like to add something, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having us here first, Joanna. As Ricardo said, we're here, to help those potential clients to set the right structure for them when they are thinking to invest in Miami, which is the new capital of the world. So for international people, for international clients, it's very important to understand what is the right structure for them, and that's we are here just to help them to minimize risk, maximize the revenue, but also to protect their investment.
All right. Thank you so much, Luis. And Neil, welcome. It's your first time at Miami Connections. Please, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Neil Bordelaise. Happy to be here. I am the area manager and vice president of Main Street Home Loans here in South Florida. So, our job and what I do is give loans for both foreign and domestic purchases for residential property. So I educate customers into, some might want to buy cash, others might want to finance. We'll decide what might be best for their long-term goals.
Perfect. Great. Well, before we get started into the questions, I want to make sure that everybody can understand in their own language. I just send the instructions how you can convert this webinar either in Turkish or in Spanish. The instructions are in the chat. Just find the word below, click on it and select your language so you can understand this in your own language. So So now let's get started. Diana, you mentioned that you've been in charge of Waldorf Astoria, Residence Miami, and also the Elser. These two projects are located in downtown, but why downtown Miami?
Well, Giovanna, we are living currently what we call the fastest growing area in Miami. Downtown Miami is going through a whole new revitalization of the city. And with Waldorf Astoria opening sales, we launched sales about 2 years ago. It was the brand that actually said yes to downtown Miami. It's a world-renowned brand. And once they said yes, that they wanted to open, their brand in Miami, not only in Miami, but in downtown Miami, well, that gave a new wave of development and of different developers to feel comfortable to start investing and to start developing in the city of downtown. So we currently have, we have 23 projects, and I'm going to just pass a slide really quick while I speak on behalf of the area. But we currently have about, we have about 23 projects that are being developed in the city of downtown Miami. And here's a picture of downtown Miami. Let me go here. There's a picture of downtown Miami. Downtown's not that large, it's only 14 blocks. But when you see all those color and you see all those dots in yellow, you're going to notice there's a high concentration of development happening within downtown Miami. So we have over $8 billion of new development coming into downtown Miami. And the majority of the developers, when you compare history of development in Miami and the development today, you find that a lot of these developers are from New York City. So we're getting, that piece of the Northeastern coming down to Miami, feeling comfortable, investing in downtown Miami, and playing, like I like to say, they're playing at creating their little Manhattan. So there's a lot of things in downtown. You have development, you have the city's also investing into downtown Miami. You have the bridge that's also being developed by the city of Miami. We're going to have an iconic bridge. It's over $2 billion that was invested in the bridge, and it's called Signature Bridge. You also have, Bayside Marketplace was bought by a group from New York City called Ashkenazi Group. They're also investing $100 million into the Bayside. And then we also have the Flagler Street beautification project that, that all of us are super excited to see what's to come into the Flagler. So finally, Miami's getting the downtown that it really deserved. And that's why, all these investors, when they come to Miami and they start studying the different markets in the area, they notice that there is a big shift and a big change into downtown Miami. A lot of these brands, we have Waldorf Astoria was the pioneer, and it's a brand, decision, a marketing decision. But also you have other brand companies that are coming. You have the Ritz-Carlton owner just bought a land nearby us. You have Thera, which was doing a multi-billion-dollar deal for a land really close by to the Elser and to Waldorf Astoria. And you also have developers like RFR that own the Chrysler building in downtown Miami, in New York City. They also bought a building in downtown Miami, and soon we will be hearing a lot of noise from them as well.
It's incredible to see the growth and the development that we had just in downtown Miami. We are located in Brickell, which is just a street away. And to see them growth, and especially us that we've been here in Miami. Miami's my city. I've been here working and living for more than 20 years. So to be part of this growth is just incredible. But it's great. It's great to learn a little bit more about downtown, because a lot of people doesn't know, and they think, downtown just 10 years ago is still a little bit scary. You will see a lot of homeless in the street. It was not what we see today. And I think that growth is basically started after the pandemic. And I know that's something that Diana, you just mentioned as well. But a lot of people cannot visualize it as well. And that's something that it's just amazing to see right now.
Well, when you compare, major cities in the world and you compare our city to other major cities of the world where everybody has a downtown, our downtown was missing that final piece and was missing the brands. So one of the things I like to mention to the buyers or to the, the investors that are coming into our city is when you analyze Brickell, you analyze areas like Edgewater, and then you analyze downtown Miami, we're the only area that has a main boulevard, right in front, and then you have the parks right in front. So that changes the dynamic when you're living and you're walking and you're a pedestrian, resident. You have the Bayfront Park, you have the museums, you have the arena, you have all this entertainment district right in front of us. And then you have all these new properties and all these new brands coming into the city and investing and believing. So you and I worked together very close for a year and a half selling Waldorf Astoria. And I always like to mention, I like to go back to Waldorf Astoria because just to approve a picture, just to approve a rendering of a building, it takes months to go through the Waldorf Astoria team. So let alone deciding where to open your brand and what location to open your brand, that says a lot about our city. That says a lot about downtown Miami. So if they felt comfortable in opening Waldorf Astoria brand, one of the oldest brands in the country, open site in downtown Miami, well, everything else, it's going to come along the way. And that's why we have so much growth in downtown Miami for the next couple of years.
I agree. Now, you did mention and you show us right now all these new developments that are happening in downtown. There are plenty of them. And you show us also some on the slides about the Elster, but explain to us why the Elster compared to any other project.
So we have, there was a decision made when it came to the Elster Hotel and Residences. We are the only development that is completely finished. So there's a dynamic when you come to buy into Miami, and all you international buyers out there that you come to Miami, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice that all these buildings, the majority of the buildings are pre-construction. Now, the Elster, on the other hand, is the only building in all of this portfolio of development that is built. And we decided to do it a little bit different just because, PMG has a big strength, financially. And while we were selling Waldorf, we were building the Elster and waiting for the right timing to launch sales. So this building is very different, and it makes sense to a lot of investors because not only is it finished, but it also allows daily rentals, which a lot of the investors, keep asking and kept asking for a lot of time. I want something built, I want something ready, and I want something that I can rent daily. So, we were building the building next door, and then we decided to go along with the model that the majority of our investors were looking for. And the model is making sense for everybody. It was a slam dunk for our company. We've been doing amazing, and the building is now operational, is fully operational. And we're starting to see, a lot of high returns for our investors, particularly in this property. And look at that location. If we look at this slide, you're going to see that it has an incredible view. You're right on Biscayne Boulevard. So location's a must. When you buy in real estate, what's the number one thing they teach you?
Location.
So we are on Biscayne Boulevard. We are right on the front line of Biscayne. We're right in front of everything that's going on in the future. And it makes sense just to look at this property in terms of ROIs.
No, well, just that location is premium. Look at those views. That's just unique. I don't think we have similar projects, and especially as an investment type of project, you're telling us that this generates a lot of returns. We don't see that around here, and especially in that area.
Yeah, and when the banks start coming in your door and asking, can we finance? And that's where Neil comes in. That's when that it makes sense. The biggest issue we have is the due diligence, that these buyers want to do. If the lender, if the bank wants to do the due diligence, does the due diligence for the buyer, and the investment makes sense, well, of course, you have a property, AAA property that's going to produce a lot for all of these investors.
Yeah, it makes sense. And now that you mentioned, actually, it's a very important factor right now, knowing that this is something that they can apply for a loan, which is not very unique. You know, usually for a new project, when you buy as a pre-construction, it takes you a long time to be able to acquire this property. Yes, you will able to get some deposits along the way, but then until the time comes and when you're able to finance, and that is always gonna challenging always at the end. But in this case, we already have a finished product, which is also something that will give us some return. And I know we did face some challenges at the beginning, but I think Neil can help me a little bit more with that. Tell me, Neil, what do you see in the Elser and how we can help our investors?
Well, so from the Elser standpoint, we love the building. We've been lending in there from day one. You know, some lenders that don't understand the building and the concept in Miami and how unique it is, they don't understand it, so there can be trouble. But the fact that we've come in and made it a very seamless process for both domestic and foreign national buyers makes the whole process much easier and understanding. You know, I know realtors can't really run the numbers, but I can run some back end figures, tell the buyer what their true investment is going to return for them. And for a foreign national, it's very easy to get qualified for financing. You know, all you need is about 2 years of income that I can either translate from your country, or you can have a CPA letter come through and tell me what you've earned. And that's really it. It's fairly easy and a common misconception that it's hard to get financing here in the States.
Well, it sounds very simple. And I know I had the experience with international buyers who did apply it, and it was it went very smooth, and it was an easy process. But I knew one of the challenges is, you know, when they're foreigners and they don't have Social Security, or they just want to buy into a personal name. Now, remember that this is an income producing property. It's going to give you some return. And I think right now I would like to address this question to Ricardo, because I know it's important as a owner to be protected somehow if you're going to invest in the US and in Miami, and especially this type of products.
Thank you, Giovanna. And that's a great question. But before I go to address it, I just want to say that the panel that you have here and us being working together for the last 3-4 years has been phenomenal. And I'm saying phenomenal because we have several clients that are identifying, you know, the right asset, which is like the ones that we are talking today. Then financing, great. And then you need the legal tax structure, which is the 4 leg of that table. And the thing is that when forces come and try just to do this type of business, they have to deal with many stakeholders and they get lost. And those stakeholders really do not talk to each other. Everyone's pointing fingers. I mean, they are not doing their job, or the lawyers are not doing their job. So that was the thing that you're putting here together that add huge value to our clients, which is, okay, let's have everyone in the same team interacting with each other, had that experience that we had in the past, just dealing with foreign investors. So I just want to put that out there, because I think that's great what you're doing. Is kind of what we call in the industry kind of a 365 or a turnkey type of pitch, which I love it. Not just as a part of the team, but also as a client myself. Definitely when a foreigner just come and look at a wonderful asset as the one that we are talking today, well, the first question is, okay, how I can finance that? And you already addressed that. Second is how I structure this. And definitely there's several ways to do it on terms of, first, asset protection, and then also from the tax perspective. So there's 2 different ways to see it. So definitely the incorporation of a legal entity here in the US look like the right way to do it. And we can help you with that. Whether it's going to be an LLC, S Corp, or a C Corp, that's something that we need to go and address it with the client, because this is a fit for purpose. We need to understand the client, what their main goal is. Second, their own family structure, their own business structure, in order just to protect that. But I'm gonna let Luis just to elaborate a little more on that aspect.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. Yes. You know, when Diana was, talking about the Elser projects, just came to my mind that the difference, between ready a project that is ready versus a pre-project is that, if you're buying, let's say in this example to the Elser, you need to have, the right structure at the moment that you are buying the property. That, is giving you the protection, the protection of the asset, but also the protection for income tax and maybe estate tax perspective. Okay, when we're talking about taxes, we need to talk about first income tax and second estate taxes. When came to international clients investing in those kind of properties, so these are the two things that every investor need to see when is investing in this type of projects, and that's we are here to help them. As Ricardo say, we have here all the pieces that can help that investors to have all they need in just one store. Have the financing, have the development team, have the real estate, and have also the legal team that can help them.
Thank you, Lisa. So that's very important. But now if we're going to structure and let's say we have an LLC, can we still acquire financing under the LLC, Neil?
That's a great question. And yes, that's the beautiful part about it. So we can establish the LLC. That side of the team can help with that. We can then close in the name of an LLC for the lending piece. So the whole asset is protected under that LLC. What it also does, though, it also opens the door for if you have a friend or a family member who wants to invest with you, right? So you can both be members or owners of that LLC and then both buy that asset together.
That's right, Neil, and I think that's a excellent point as well. So that gives you some flexibility later on, just to include other members in the LLC, have a bylaws that allows you just to take decisions, actually be kind of very efficient in the way how expenses will be handled in that LLC and then deducted from tax. That was the thing, Joanna, that I'm talking about, is how Neil, you and us just can interact. We are been interacting like that before, and we know what to expect when you are so anxious just doing this or taking this very important step in your investment plan.
No, it's very interesting, but also I want to try to understand a little more, and I'm sure all the participants have this question. What about the income that they're getting once they acquire this property? And I think Ricardo, Luis can help me with this. Is this going to be a taxable income? How can they deal with this?
Well, the answer, is yes. I mean, if that a property is going to be a rental purpose asset, yes. All the income that they receive from rentals will be subject to taxes, but also you have there the spends. You can deduct all the expenses that are related to that property. And also you have the depreciation of the asset. So the answer is yes, but there's also some other elements that need to take in consideration that might help to reduce that the income tax exposure of the project.
Bear in mind, Giovanna, that as Luis is saying, definitely you have to pay taxes on that income, but you some deductions that you can take as all the expenses for the closing, maintenance and all that on top of the depreciation of the asset. So that was one thing. The other thing that is important when you have the right structure is not just from the tax perspective, but also from the asset protection perspective. Mm-hmm. What happened if I don't incorporate an LLC and I do it under my own name? So what happened if I die? Okay, and then, that's something that can be resolved through an LLC or or a corporation. And again, we need to see case by case, analyze things case by case, depending on the profile of the client. But that when you do this type of incorporation and do it through the LLC or the corporation, I mean, you are avoiding also those type of problems that, potential investor, foreign investor may have in the US or anywhere, because they have the same thing in their home country. So they have to plan, their estate as well. And it's what we have to do it here. We don't want first just that somebody just buy a property here and then pass away. And beside the tax implication that specific situation may trigger, that Luis can go through that. The other thing is, like, we don't want to do and go through a probation of the will, a foreign will here in the state of Florida or any state of the US. So it's a way to avoid that hiccup, that problem that you may have in the future if something wrong happened. And as Neil was saying, I mean, well, probably what your structure will be is an LLC or a corporation that the members or the shareholder, depending on the structure that we are talking about, are your family members. So it will be a family LLC, or it's going to be a person that you want to, give some type of property that they are not under, succession kind of a family law in their home country. They are not in the line of getting anything after that person passed away. So this is a great opportunity just to structure, your estate outside your home country, that if you do it the right way, actually the distribution of that assets are going to be faster, simpler, and tax efficient.
Oh, this is amazing information, and not everybody knows that. And it's just having the right knowledge and be prepared for your purchase. It's all the advantage you can get after that. You always have to think in what you're doing in the moment, but also the consequences you're going to have after that. So thank you, Ricardo. At least that was an amazing information. But now that we're talking about the importance, of course, is having the right structure at the time to purchase as a protection, to protect your assets, in the long term, in the short term as well. But if we're going to buy this investment property, now that we're focusing on the LSRs, because, Diana, as VP of Sales, she's the expert there in downtown. And I want to understand a little bit more, because this is just not the only one. We have so many projects around. And now we know the LSR can be unique just because it's finished. But what is really guaranteeing me that return? Because what is really happening in downtown? That we know that Miami has a very high occupancy rate. We know that. Well, we're familiar with that, of course. But I would like to understand a little more, Diana. Maybe you can help me with that. What is the reason, behind that it gives this such a higher occupancy rate to that area specifically?
Well, right now, when it comes to events, Miami is one of the few cities in the country that hosts the majority of the events in the country. I think that Miami has dedicated itself, and the mayor of Miami, I think he's our greatest cheerleader, and he's our greatest salesperson for the city of Miami. He got on a plane after pandemic. He started visiting all these corporations, and a lot of these corporations started moving for the same reason that most of these international buyers buy, but the majority that they don't know is for tax reasons. A lot of these corporations are moving from the north and from the West Coast simply because our city pays less taxes, income taxes, and pays state taxes as well. But with that said, you also have the tourism portion of Miami, of the city of Miami. And Miami has dedicated itself to do many, many events through the year. We have 9 months of events. Our high season starts in November. We used to before have only about 4 or 5 months of season. Today we have 9 months of season. And then when you take into consideration summer and all the Latin American market, our location geographic location is strategically, we're 8 hours from Europe, where longest flight from Latin America to Argentina is also 8 hours. So our location is very important. So when you put all these factors in, Joanna, Miami is having the highest occupancy rate in the country. So when we look at our numbers within the hotel industry, and you look at the numbers, every single hotel brand wants to open a hotel in the city of Miami. Why is that? Because the occupancy rate is 84% in Dade County. When then you concentrate and you concentrate to downtown Miami has a 93% occupancy rate. Those numbers you will never get. You're lucky if you get those numbers in the first 3 years of an asset when it comes to daily rentals or Airbnb assets. For our property, we recently opened, and this I can say on a webinar, but I've been seeing the reports. I can't give you ROIs. Neil can help me with that. We were talking about that right before the webinar, but we opened the hotel, and when I say the hotel, we opened the property, we opened the daily rental part of the property. And I was in meetings with the revenue of Highgate, which is the operator of the property. And we're getting numbers as high as 77% occupancy for 60 days open into the market. So there is no other city than the city of Miami currently. We're on the global on the global market of everybody. After after the Messi announcement, which is, summer's usually slow. It's been crazy after announced Messi in Miami. Like, I have never worked so much in summer in the history of what I've been in the industry of real estate. And it's crazy because you have all these investors pouring from outside and just coming to Miami to getting a little piece of real estate of Miami. Yes. But the numbers are there. We analyzed the numbers within the hotel industry, within the residential industry. Everything is public. You can go on Google, you can research, downtown Miami occupancy rates, and you will find that we have the highest occupancy rates of the whole city. So that's important. And then when you put into play the numbers, the average daily rates, and you do an analysis of the property, well, the numbers make sense, Giovanna, and all these investors are going to do very, very well in our product or in any product. It doesn't have to be the Elser. I'm a sole sales a cheerleader of the city of Miami. It's not only downtown Miami. I think that anything that you invest in Miami, it's going to keep increasing in value. It's going to keep increasing in rental income. And it's, there's no stopping Miami at this point.
I agree. And I share the same. It's been crazy for us as well. It's just as Miami right now has become such an excited city with everything that is happening, around us. But actually, you mentioned, Neil, I'm so happy that you're here with us because I'm sure everybody wants to see, nothing like numbers to show the real facts about what's going on here. So if you can help us and enlighten us with that, that would be great.
Of course. And, these numbers are going to be different for everyone. So this is a conversation we will have with every investor who comes in and wants to get a mortgage. We look at their goals and wants and needs. So I'm just going to throw just some rough numbers out just to as an example, just to kind of get the gears turning. We can always adjust them, but I'll share my screen here with you. Okay, so this is a little program that I use, and I just the power of it is pretty great. So obviously, if you're going to rent your property on a monthly basis or an annual basis, we can fool with those numbers. In this case, in this example, I'm just using $1 million property where you're going to rent the property Airbnb for about $450 a day for 22 days, which is about that 70% occupancy that Diana was speaking about. We have an annual rent increase, which I think is pretty conservative. You look at the national average renewal is 8%. Whereas I'm only going to put 3 in this example, okay? The vacancy rate we've already put into the calculation for the monthly rent. And you look at the property, we factor in the taxes that you pay annually and on the purchase. We factor in your homeowner's insurance that covers you and the liability. So if a tenant that you are renting to destroys the place or a flood, you are covered, okay? That's protection there. The monthly association fee, the Elser as an example, very reasonable. It's only about $1 a square foot. In this example, I'm using about 1,000 square feet. So that's $1,000 a month. Now, we put property tax increase in here. We can use those numbers as well. The management fee, the Ulster does charge. I know we won't get into those details, but a very, very reasonable fee that is kind of makes it turnkey for you as an investor. So these fees are noted here. And then I even put a cost to sell. So when the time comes where you do want to unload the asset, the cost of that is going to be, let's just say 6%. So we can put any of these numbers in here. In this example, I just said 30% down mortgage, and I just used a fairly high rate. Rates have increased and people think, oh no, rates are too high, but this example is at 8.625%. Okay. You look at these numbers over the course, I factor in a 10-year hold and a historical average in Dade County of about 4.99% appreciation, which I feel over the 10 years is pretty. I mean, we're only using 3.6 in this example, but to everyone's point, all of the influx of domestic money and foreign money pouring into Miami I think is going to move the needle even more. So you factor in these numbers here, and you look at this return. So you put down your down payment. You have rent that you've collected. We'll go through these fees here. So, this is all your cost. Okay. So the return, the first year, these numbers are stating you're already getting a return your first year. Normally with an investment, there's a lot of upstarting costs and things of that nature. This is pretty turnkey where you're going to earn something right away in this example. So that's just on the rent. Then when you scroll down here and you factor in the appreciation of your asset over these 10 years, based on all the rental revenue you received, look at this profit that in this example, and your ROI over 10 years is 181%, which is an average of 10%. And that return is with a hard asset. So it's an asset that's protected. It's something you can touch and feel. And it's not going to lose 50% of its value overnight, like the stock market. So this is a pretty powerful program that we can do and run numbers. We send it over email to you. And we can use any sort of example you'd like. So hopefully that was helpful for everyone.
Amazing.
And mind you that those numbers are very, very extremely conservative.
Very conservative. Yeah, I don't want to overpromise. I'm not in the business of overpromising.
Yeah,
but we can plug all this in, and yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let me add to this. It's usually for a lender to be able to approve a project like this is because it needs to make sense. They need to see that there's really some return because they don't want to risk it. So for them and Neil to be able to prove these numbers is just all we need. What better than that?
Because we have investors that think, okay, yeah, give me a better return. What does the number look like here? And we will run those numbers for them. So yeah.
No, that it's perfect. And actually, Neil, I wanted just to add a little bit more to this. Actually, I have some more questions about this
Sure.
because we're dealing with definitely foreign investors. We are here connected, and that's what we call Miami Connection. We're connecting, the world with Miami, which is the new capital of the world. And in this case, we have especially a big percentage of Turkish buyers, of Latin American buyers. So they're all international. So in this case, or maybe they're not here. They're in their own country and they want to be able to proceed with the purchase on one of these properties. But what happens when the closing comes in? Do they need to be present for a closing?
Sure. We always tell them, yes, it's always good for you to do a final walkthrough, of course, and meet Diana face to face. And it's a very good experience. But we understand that it is hard to travel, but we can do closings in embassies. So in the U.S. embassy in your country, we can arrange closings in 90% of the cases. Sometimes there's some unique scenarios where we would want you here in the States or on domestic soil, but outside of that, it's very, very easy to have a closing in your country.
Okay. So as a foreign buyer, what if I am also I have dual citizenship, not just I might have a U.S.
Right.
in some other country, but I'm not in the U.S. How would that affect my purchase if I'm doing it as a foreigner?
Yeah, so if you have dual citizenship, that's kind of the perfect scenario, right?
Okay,
Because then we have access to both foreign products and the domestic products. So there are some investors that actually already own properties, whether it's in the ELSR. There's people buying multiple units in the ELSR, which we can do one big loan for. But also, if you already own a property in the States, we can actually take equity from that property and help you purchase another one in Miami or wherever. But if you do have a US citizenship that we can use, we can actually create even better financing for you. So even though you might not be living here, the fact that you're a citizen here can open some additional doors for you.
that's perfect, actually.
Yeah.
That's very good. And Diana, how long does it take once we acquire the property and to be able to put our property within the program so we can start getting some returns on our investment?
So really good question, Giovanna. The way it works, and this is something that most international buyers sometimes don't understand. The ELSR is a condominium. So it is a residential condominium where the investors or the buyer, the purchaser, has the option in going into a rental program. It's not, I forgot the word in English.
Mandatory.
Mandatory, there we go. It's not mandatory, but if you do want to do daily rentals, you do have to go through the centralized operator. And the reason is that, we want we want to control pricing, first of all. So price control is one of the first things. And then second, of course, maintaining the look of the property and everything cohesive. Now, once the buyer closes, the same day of closing, they can make the meeting with the operator. And you can either do it prior to closing, you schedule the meeting with the operator. That same day of closing, you leave the closing table, you leave Neil's. I've had Neil done transactions where they're leaving Neil and then they're going right at that same moment, they're going across the lobby and they're going to meet with the operator and they're just signing the documents. And then that unit goes into the program immediately that same day. So, there's a lot of demand for these properties and, the operator wants the majority amount of units as possible because the operator doesn't make any money if he doesn't have inventory. So it is in the best interest of the operator to get high income for that property, because the higher the income it gets for the owner, well, of course, they profit from that. And the way it works is they charge the owner a 15% of room revenue, which is unheard of. Our timing was perfect. And because our timing was perfect, we had the ability to negotiate with the operator. Maybe 3-4 years down the road for other projects is going to be a little bit more difficult. But for us, because we were the only project, in town, we were able to negotiate and we had, the upper hand in the negotiations. And the way it works is, once the owner closes, gives it to the management, they charge them a 15% of the room revenue of the property. And also they get charged commissions, whatever the platform charges. So there's an average of commissions for the platforms, and it comes out to a total of about 25% of the monthly costs, and the property owner stays with 75%. Any other property, which is amazing,
Yes.
Any other property, you're going to get either a 60% or even a 50%. It depends on each property, but this is an amazing, incredible deal.
No, very interesting. And actually, it's true. Any condo hotel that has this option, usually the split it could be even 50-50, not even or 60-40. So it's usually pretty high for the hotel management more than for the property owner. So is that, but now also you mentioned something. It's not mandatory to put it in the rental program. That means that I can live on my property, that I don't have to. It's not only for short-term rentals, correct?
Correct. It's not only for short-term rentals. I have many buyers that have also purchased because of the high demand. There's no inventory in Miami. So I have many of my sales as well. They don't want to put it in the rental program. So you don't have the full building operating on a daily basis. You know, I would dare to say that about 40% of the property, people are living in the property, and then the other 6% are investors. But it is, you know, as you say, it's not mandatory. And that's something very important. Also for financing is very important, because at the end of the day, the lenders do look at our condominium documents, our bylaws, and they want to see that option. They want to see that the owners are not, you know, they don't have to give it to the operator. And that's also something very important. And that's why the lending system or the banks are opening their doors to our project.
Correct. Great. Now, one more thing that I want to ask you, because you're telling me that if you can put it right away in the rental program, what about the furniture? Do I need to purchase furniture? How that works?
So the properties are delivered fully finished and furnished. I want to open my screen while I talk as well. So the properties are delivered fully finished and fully furnished. And when we're saying fully finished and fully furnished, you know, it's everything. You'll have decor, you'll have wallpaper, you know, sofa beds. Every unit has a sofa bed, beds, sheets, towels, you know, everything that has to do with fully furnishing a property. This is, for example, one of our 2 bedrooms that you're seeing here on the screen. The look is very clean, you know, it's timeless, you know, the decor and all the units have been furnished completely. It was something that investors do need to take into consideration is, you know, time is money. And if today you buy a property that you want to start putting into Airbnb, you know, you're lucky if you get furniture in the next year. You know, any furniture store is backed up and is behind with delivery schedules, and we completely furnish the whole building. And we finished about a month ago. It took us about 4 months to fully finish the building, and it's ready to go. You know, it's appliances, it's kitchen, it's closets, it's blackouts, it's window treatment, it is decor, it's absolutely everything. It was a phenomenal job that,
Pots
you know,
and
that
pans
that
and
people
cups and
did.
everything else, right?
Everything. I don't think any other developer, you know, I have all developers in Miami come to see me all the time, and they're asking me presentations because they can't believe, you know, the short amount of time that we did this, that we were able to do this. And all the furniture is coming from Europe. So you have European furniture, and you have everything you see here in the image. You see TVs, you see the lamps. Everything is as you've seen it in the picture. And then here, of course, are phenomenal views. I want to go back a little bit to everyone, because, you know, we do sell and we're a global city, but why is it that you buy in Miami? And it's because of this phenomenal, you know, bay views that we get here in downtown Miami, and also you're buying somewhere else. So this property has an incredible location. We're right in front of the Port of Miami. So if somebody's going to a cruise, you know, we're right in front of the Port of Miami. You have the arena, you have all the events, you have the museums, you have Miami Beach right across the street. We will have a beach club. We should be announcing in the next week or 2. So it's something very exciting, which we didn't have. And that's how you show, you know, how invested we are into this property. We're still investing, even though we're already, you know, on the other side of closings of this property. But my developers' interest in you know, making it better and making in order to get a higher, you know, average daily rate. So you also have beach access, which is on Collins and on Ocean Drive and 4th Street, and that's going to be announced in the next 2 weeks. You have access to boating as well, because the deal with a yacht company. We're doing a deal with Brightline Station in order to be able to get discount tickets to our guests and to our property owners to go to Orlando once the train station opens. So a lot of things, you know, in coming to the property. Oh my God, what happened?
That's incredible. It's pretty exciting. And of course, I've seen, you know, how the Elster it's going, and I've seen, you know, being part and involved with this, with the Elster and with water since the beginning. So it's pretty excited to see this. I would like to open the floor to see if our participants have some questions. We're here to help you out. Any questions you may have. In the meantime, Neil, if we are going to require a loan, how long does it take for us to go through this process?
Sure, we generally tell people 30 days, from the time we take their application, the appraisal's ordered, documents translated and so on. As long as your unit's ready to go, which it probably is, we'll get you closed in 30 days.
Okay, that's great.
And then just to extend on that, your mortgage payment will not start for another month later. Okay, so it's not an immediate payment that's due.
And what will be the initial deposit is required for us to apply it as a partner for the loan?
Well, so the initial deposit, that's dictated usually by the ELSER, and I believe Diana is 30% still across the board.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so generally when the contract's written, it's 30% upfront, and then if they choose to put more down, but generally 30% down payment is the bare minimum for foreign nationals.
Okay. Well, it's been a lot of information, incredible information from everybody. Luis, would you like to add something to close this?
Well, after, all this, excellent, exposition of all the panelists and only, just to tell, this, all the attendees and, people that might have access to this webinar is that we're here to help. We have, all the areas or corners that have in this kind of investment covered. Where you will be covered from tax and perspective. You will have, the best professional in the real estate and development business. You will have access to lending through Neil. So we are here just to help you, and we can prepare tailor-made alternatives and option for those for investors to minimize tax exposure and maximize income.
That's great. It's been a lot of information, and I'm sure everybody's going to have more questions later on. I invite all you participants to continue. Let's connect. You can scan our QR code there in the screen, so you can have our information. So if you have more questions, please don't hesitate and just ask. That's what we're here for. We want to support you, and we want to continue providing this information so you can be able to succeed within your investment goals. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Ricardo. It's been great having you once again in the Miami Connections. We look forward to continue doing this, and definitely I want to invite everybody. We'll be connected again in the next month, providing more information about Miami and what Miami has to offer. So thank you again. And in the meantime, just remember, if you're just doubting or thinking what to do, the time is now. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.